I think that in the villages, we have evolved to do certain things right. And if we can bring all of these people who speak these languages, who know how to do commerce in local language, and then use the capacity that they have to teach our young people, I think that might be a faster way to go than now trying to bring these kids and teach them English. When they go home, who are they going to speak English with? So I think we should really look at what are we trying to teach the kids, and how can we use the capacity that we have and use local language to teach them the skills that they need to have.
Ashish, I'm going to ask you this very personal question. I went through a little bit of your family history, and you did say that you had to move out of Uganda at some point when Idi Amin was in power, and you came back eventually. Your family came back to Africa to settle down again. What prevented you? First of all, what gave you the heart to be able to invest again on this continent, you know, to settle down and say, this is where I'm going to be, and prevented you from being a turncoat?
So I think after 72, we got kicked out from Uganda. We came back to Rwanda. 9 months later, unfortunately, me, my sister, and parents were refugees during the Rwanda genocide. So we luckily came out again, okay, but we lost everything as a family. And this is why one of the reasons I quit education was to support the family. And I think, you know, I mean, I'm a fourth generation African. This is home, right? This is our future. And I think it comes down to, you know, the beauty about being uneducated is it keeps you with a very simple mind. And therefore, I love what everybody's saying. And it's very sophisticated, it's awesome, but it's at 20,000 feet. I think we need to come down to earth now, right? It's great, we're saying the right stuff, it's excellent. But what is our measurable impact now? What are we doing about it? It's great, and I agree, we need to broaden circles, but we're here. We're representing those 200 million people, our people. We're representing them. So, no, but I'll tell you, but my point is, let's find a village program that works in education. Let's then take it to government. And government doesn't listen, let's take it broader. Let's take it to the AU. Let's take it to the AFDB. Let's sing and dance about this. Let's take it to the forum and raise this issue. We're trying to do something. I started at the age of 15 with very little capital, no ability to network, right? The only reason that I made it happen was I pushed it. I made it happen. I tried. I worked hard. I collapsed so many times.
I wanted to know what made you push. What even gave you the idea that you could even go into this?
So to Essie's point earlier, I was dreaming big, but I started very small. I started extremely small. And I kept on pushing through this, which is why 5 years ago I set up the Mara Foundation, and we set up a mentorship program. We've set up a venture capital fund. And actually with the government of Nigeria, we've partnered now to create a mentorship platform which will hopefully impact millions of youth on mobile in an impactful, measurable manner, free of charge. But I can't expect our governments to do everything. We have to also do it, and I want to measure it. Let me get to 1 million youth, and then I show you that it's measurable.
Well, I have a result for you. So earlier I was talking about, you know, using local language, and I think at first it seems radical, right? Like, okay, so these people are there speaking these languages. How does that translate in the real world, right? But then in Ghana, radio is big, right? And maybe 15, 20 years ago, the only people who were in charge of information was people who were, you know, had been to school and knew how to speak English. So you turn on the radio and news is in English, right? And that meant that the only people who knew what was going on, the only people who could really participate, were people who had been educated in school. Then somebody came and set up a local language radio station, which was the majority of the people. And that was wildly successful, right? So now, when you come to the country and you want to know what is going on, any cab driver is going to be more informed about the state of the country than because when you leave your house in the morning, you go and sit in the office. They are sitting there the whole day listening to the radio. And what that means is that it's been successful. Jobs are being created for people who at first had the skill of speaking the language, but nobody wanted it. But now, they also are now stars, right? They're on radio, they're educating. And so we're seeing value in that skill that used to exist, but nobody valued. So I think that's definitely.
Essentially what you're saying is the language is a medium. It should be seen as a tool rather than an end in itself. Well, I don't know what that would say to someone like me who did English for a degree. But Bineta?
I just wanted to add, this morning from 7 to 8, I was with the Nollywood industries. Just to add, because you go everywhere. In Rwanda, everywhere you go, you see Nollywood film. I think it's so important that we look at what touch our people. And this Nollywood is out there. How can we use them? This morning I had a conversation with them to say, how can you help Africa to be within the African movement rising? What is your contribution, positive contribution, to change the mindset and the attitude at the grassroots level? How can you reach, for example, the status of women? You know, how can you contribute to that? So I think that radio, community radio, those who also use this, I think whatever means to communicate, we need to use them. So one of the issues also I wanted to link on how to empower our young, the agriculture sector. I think this is a very important. And how do we do it? Concrete solutions. We need just to be tackling few things. Let's look at the land. Many of our countries are saying we have land to give. So before they give it outside, let's campaign for 30% for young people on that land. Let's mobilize and say this is what we want. In each country, we need 30% of arable land to the youth, maybe more. This is what we did in the AU. The parity principle, we fought for it in the corridor. They listened to us. So the young people could mobilize for an issue. It can be the land tomorrow, and you name them. Mobilization, pushing the politicians, but also the private sector, not just the politicians and our government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bineta. I have to thank every single one of you who've been on this panel, and also you, members of our audience. We've come to the end of our discussion. I feel like we only scratched the surface. We could have gone on and on. We didn't even touch agriculture. But thank you so much for being a part of it. This session has been jointly organized by Channels Television and the World Economic Forum, titled Young and Restless. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for participating. I'm Maupe, Ogun for Channels TV.